Welcome back to Next Gen Console Watch, the show following everything happening with the latest gaming hardware. I'm Damon Hatfield, and joining me today are two members of IGN's PlayStation podcast, Podcast Beyond, Max Scoville and Jada Griffin. And today we are talking about remasters. Now, obviously, remasters are nothing new at this point. They go all the way back to at least Super Mario All-Stars on Super Nintendo. This year we've gotten The Last of Us Part 2 remastered, Tomb Raiders 1 through 3, the Castlevania Dominus Collection, Braid Anniversary Edition, Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door, and the Marvel vs. Capcom Fighting Collection, just to name a few. But would you believe there are still some great games out there that have not been remastered for modern consoles? The most infamous is probably Bloodborne, from Software's beloved Souls-like that is widely considered to be one of the greatest games ever made. It's nearly 10 years old now, and it's trapped on the PS4 and locked at 30 frames per second. So, to kick things off, Max and Jada, Bloodborne was developed by FromSoft, but the property is owned by Sony. What is the holdup with getting a nice remastered version on the PS5 or even PC, since Sony seems to have really warmed up to the platform?
I think the biggest thing is nobody wants it.
That's what it is.
Nobody wants the Bloodborne. That's what it is. There's not been enough fanfare.
No demand.
Nobody's gotten shirts that say in the Bloodborne font, just remaster it.
Yep.
You know, it's, I mean, to put it in one word, Sony seems to be the holdup because Sony, again, has the rights to this. This is their property. But also, I can't entirely blame them for not having put something out by now. And that's not to say I really hope there's something in the works. I hope that they're paying attention to this and listening to the constant outpouring of people just saying, just remaster it, put it on PC, get it running at 60 frames a second. It's an incredibly gorgeous, wonderful, technically complex game. And I think that's part of the reason that they haven't just tossed it to a third-party port house. You know, we saw Bluepoint do an amazing job with Demon Souls, but Demon Souls, God, you know, there's a console generation between Demon Souls and Bloodborne. And Bloodborne was really, really used to just kind of push the PS4 and show off what it was capable of. It has, you know, in addition to the classic FromSoft action RPG Soulsborne adventure, it's also got multiplayer and it's also got its Chalice dungeons. So there's a lot there that could be remastered if they're going to remaster it. You know, there's a lot to work with. And I think the fact that if you're going to do it right. Don't screw it up, because, you know, as much as it sucks to have this game trapped on the PS4 running at 30 frames a second, it would be a real tragedy if they just dropped the ball and made a really terrible port.
Sure. Well, here's hoping one day the world gets the Bloodborne remaster they've been demanding. Jada, what's another game you'd like to see remastered for modern consoles?
Ooh, you know what? I'm going to take one probably from the middle of our list, one that I know a lot of fans have been asking for and Capcom has been refusing to give us, and that's Dino Crisis.
Yes.
That is a big fan favorite for a lot of people. We just want to see some dinosaurs and some horror. And, you know, we got it on the PS Plus catalog just earlier last month. And so it's great that it's there and people can now experience it, but with Capcom's amazing track record so far for how they've done Resident Evil, I really hope it's a matter of when, not if, we get a remaster for Dino Crisis. This game is fantastic, and I want more people to be able to experience it.
Wouldn't you rather get a remake, though? Because Capcom has done such great work with their Resident Evil remakes.
That's true. Maybe a remake is probably the avenue to go for this one. That's probably what I was more in line with. But I mean, either way, sure. I just want Dino Crisis. I want a better Dino Crisis.
Yeah,
I
just would like Dino Crisis to be back in my life. It's been too long.
Yeah.
Max, what's another one that you have?
Well, I love that you teed up Bloodborne by saying one of the most infamous things from Sony's catalog that's lacking is Bloodborne, but also Infamous. I think Infamous would be a great series to get remastered. Obviously, there was Second Son and First Light, which work great on the PS4. And again, those look good. They could probably use a bit of a fresh coat of paint, but the ones that are on the PS3, really, you know, you talk about something being trapped on the PS4. At the very least, you can play Bloodborne on a PS5. You know, backwards compatibility does some heavy lifting, but the games that were exclusive to the PS3 are really stuck there, thanks to the double-edged sword that is the very proprietary cell processing. Yeah, that whole thing, which is, you know, it led to some really cool games being made, but also it makes it so that they kind of have to be remade to get them up and running on, you know, current gen systems or more recent systems, I suppose. Infamous seems like a no-brainer, especially I feel like since those early iterations came and went, we've really seen pretty much every angle of superhero culture explored left and right, and everything from the MCU to the to the boys, like that stuff is all pretty much exploded. And yeah, I mean it's also it's nice to see sort of Sucker Punch moving on and doing other stuff, but there's it's nice that they have this part of their library.
Yeah, I played Second Son. I never played the original Infamous. Jada, how about you?
Yeah, I played the crap out of the first two games. And I even got one of the little figures. He's somewhere up there high. You can't see him on my camera right now, but from the collector's edition, I really enjoyed these games. They were kind of the open world kind of. They had a little bit of a collectathon kind of stuff going in it, but it was before the industry had become packed with these games. We often talk about Ubisoft when it comes to like bloat with these open world games and stuff. Infamous had a lot of that open world stuff, and it was a lot of things to collect, and like these little shards and fragments that you would collect to get a little bit extra juice, a little bit of extra energy, so you could zap one extra person or charge an attack to a higher level. Really enjoyed these. It also had a really cool karma system where you would decide to do good or bad, which had Second Son, which also you're familiar with that, Daemon. So you're familiar with that. But really enjoyed that aspect of it, and I would love to see this franchise make a return with a new protagonist in a new city. There's a lot to choose from, and a lot of stuff they could do with this. I forgot about the level creator thing they had in there back in the day. Wow. That was crazy.
Well, speaking of, I guess, inner city games where you can grind on rails that are technically developed by Sony first-party studios, there's also Sunset Overdrive, which was Xbox One exclusive, made by Insomniac, and it has the guts of what they would do with the Spider-Man games. But it's weird because, again, that was Xbox exclusive, and then Sony has since scooped up Insomniac, so I'm curious who has the keys to this one completely. I kind of would hope that we'd get a port on PS5. It'd be kind of neat. This game isn't perfect, but it has some phenomenal art direction and just is generally really fun, so I'd like to see that. I know that Ryan McCaffrey would back me up on this one. Yeah,
he wanted to make sure we got this on our list.
Yeah, I think the big thing for me with this was kind of like, for me, kind of kicked off games with fantastic traversal. Mm-hmm. And this is one of those games I always point back to when I'm talking about a game with good traversals. Like, look what Sunset Overdrive did with, everything being kind of bouncy and like lots of grind rails, like Max was saying. I loved Sunset Overdrive on my Xbox One, and I really love to play that again. I think there's a good enough fan base out there that would like to see it with some fresh coat of paint.
Yeah, just at a glance, I didn't realize how similar it looks to Infamous. They look quite similar when you look at them back to back. Now, I see on our list here we have the Final Fantasy XIII trilogy. I'm going to go out on a limb to say this is a Jada edition here.
That is a very selfish edition by me. Like Max said earlier, a lot of PS3 games were locked to the PS3 because of the cell structure. Obviously, you can play it on Xbox if you have the 360 version, mm-hmm. It can with the, I forget the technology with the Xbox. Smart delivery, thank you. That you can use to play that on Xbox, as well as there's PC versions for it. But I would like to play it on my PlayStation 5 with some trophy support because I like my platinum trophies. And I've always played my Final Fantasies on PlayStation, and that's just kind of a me thing. It's a very selfish pick, but I would love to see this trilogy. And I think as more time has gotten between us and its releases, I think more people have come around on this game than there was at launch.
Yeah, very, very contentious at launch. It's, I think, mixed reviews for the first one, and then I think fans of the series who are hoping maybe they would move on, maybe they're a little bit annoyed that they made two more of them after that. But you're right. I think the 10 and 10-2 have both been remastered. 11 is its own thing that you can still play today. 12 was remastered. I think you're right. The 13 has yet to get the remastered treatment.
Now, one game that, much like Final Fantasy, I feel like we associate with it being a PlayStation series, though it has since branched out, is Metal Gear Solid. Mm-hmm. And the one kind of exception that hasn't made its way off of Sony hardware is Metal Gear Solid 4, mm-hmm. which is admittedly kind of a black sheep, but there's lots of rumors and rumbling that maybe we'll get that as part of the Master Collection Volume 2. Curious to see how well that gets handled. It's again, I think it has the Guinness Book of World Records record for the longest continuous cutscene. It is a lot of cutscenes. Yeah, it's pretty weird even by Kojima standards, but it would be nice to have it accessible in modern hardware. It'd be fun to sort of fill in the blanks in that timeline. Though I don't know if this really answers questions so much as it does just create new ones.
Max, did either of you ever mess around with the multiplayer for this one?
No.
Oh man, it was interesting to say the least. I think the final match I played and was like, I'm done with this multiplayer, was I snuck up behind somebody, CQC'd them till they were on the ground. I hit them in the crotch with a grenade, and they survived, and then got up and ran away. And I was like, cool. Okay, well, this is just, I'm done with this game.
War has changed, as
War
they say.
has definitely changed. But, you know, speaking of wars that change, there's a lot of handheld ones. There's the GTA Chinatown Wars.
That's a really good one.
To handhelds. That was a fantastic Grand Theft Auto experience, and I don't think many of us expected to get that experience when it primarily launched on the DS back in the day.
And PSP the same year, although a few months later.
Yeah, it was just kind of crazy. And I know a lot of people that were waiting for the PSP version because they're like, it's Nintendo. They're not going to do GTA, right? And it was actually a fantastic use of the dual screen technology. So that was a lot of fun. But, you know, obviously when it came to PSP, you did get those slightly nicer visuals and it, you know, all the bonuses you got with the PSP over the DS in that era of games. But this would be a fun one to see remastered and brought to, I guess not modern handhelds, because that's just the Switch, but
I mean, you could play it on Steam Deck, you play it on the PlayStation Portal.
True.
You know.
Yeah. It'd be great to see it make a return, and that just to give it another life and let more people, especially while we're waiting for GTA 6 to come out, this would be a great kind of stopgap in the meantime.
Exactly. I've got a couple of my own to pitch. Let me know what you think about this. What about a Bayonetta collection, including all 3 games? Because 2 and 3, correct me if I'm wrong, they're only on Nintendo platforms. 2 and 3 are not on PlayStation or Xbox. So, Bayonetta collection, all 3 games with a nice remaster.
I would love that. I love the Bayonetta games. I've been a big fan of Devil May Cry back in the day. When Bayonetta came out, I was like, this is a fantastic, just like, hey, we liked what you guys did with Devil May Cry. Here's our spin on it from Platinum. And just fantastic use, great character, great action, great abilities. Just, I would love that, Daemon. This is a great suggestion.
Now, what about this one, Max? What about the original Astrobot Rescue Mission, which is a PSVR game, but of course, PSVR games are not compatible with PSVR 2. Remaster it, bring it to PSVR 2. I kind of think PSVR 2 needs some good games. Am I wrong?
You don't even have to remaster it. Just make it work with the new headset. That seems baffling to me.
Yeah.
We have seen VR games that were developed for VR ported to not VR, which is sort of usually goes the other direction. But, you know, given how much people enjoy the Astrobot games, I'd be, you know, inclined to see how they handle this. You know, it's kind of like watching a 3D movie at home on your regular TV. You're like, oh, that part was probably supposed to be exciting. And I feel like you could do something similar with this. And people love that little Astrobot. He's a good little guy. He's fun out there. So, yeah.
His latest game's doing well, too. Second best-selling game of September. Good for him.
Nice.
One more for me. I want a remaster of Star Wars Rogue Squadron 2 Rogue Leader, which was a GameCube game from back in 2002. Fantastic Star Wars flight sim that is trapped on the GameCube, but it's never been ported anywhere else, I don't believe. So I think Aspyr is the company that's been doing all these remasters of classic Star Wars games. Like we did Dark Forces this year, and I think Jedi Power Battles is coming up next. So yeah, let's get Rogue Squadron 2 Rogue Leader back. This is an awesome game.
Look at some of the incredible models that we've gotten of the, you know, original Star Wars prop models, like the LiDAR photogrammetry scanned ones they did for Battlefront 1 are phenomenal looking. I guess it was Battlefront 2 that had the ship combat, but still there was like, it's such a, there's really, really good high-res X-Wing assets out there. Just use those to make this game again. I know that game development isn't that simple, but I feel like making a very realistic X-Wing, taking that out of the equation should streamline things a little bit.
Yeah, but also this game is 22 years old and does not look that bad. That's really impressive.
I mean, they had to do a lot with the GameCube hardware back then to kind of stay on ground with PlayStation and Xbox. They knew the hardware wasn't as powerful, so that's why we got a lot of Nintendo and GameCube games that were more about art direction and just being smart with their assets. And they knocked it out of the park with this one.
Well, there you have it. That's a few games we'd love to see remastered for modern consoles. Of course, there are many, many more games that also deserve the treatment. We could do a whole series on this topic. But that's just a few that we'd like to see. If there was a round one of remasters for our modern consoles, that's probably what we would like to see. Here's the results of the poll from last episode. We were talking about the Analog 3D, which is the brand new Nintendo 64 sort of recreation that lets you play all your N64 games on your HD TV in 4K very easily. And we asked, will you be picking up an Analog 3D? 72% of you said, nah, I'm good. But I guess about 12% said definitely, and then 16% said maybe if Analog releases that clear purple version. A lot of people are going to wait around for that. Jada, are you interested in the Analog 3D? Does this have a place in your gaming setup?
I've already got it pre-ordered.
There you go.
Daemon.
There you go.
I'm part of that 12%, yes. And it's mostly because I have my 64. It's still plugged up. It works perfectly. But being able to plug in via HDMI and connect it to like streaming devices to stream on my Twitch channel, like that's just eases up all of that kind of network of cables behind my TV. So that was the big seller for me for that. It's just simplicity and just simplicity.
Cable management.
Cable management.
Big thrills of modern retro consoles.
Yes.
You are the target demographic for the Analog 3D. New poll for you to vote on next episode. Which of these games we've discussed today would you most like to see remastered? Make sure to vote at IGN.com the day this episode goes live. And that's going to do it for this edition of Next Gen Console Watch. Thank you to both Max and Jada. Thank you to everyone working behind the scenes in our LA studio to make this episode possible. My name is Daemon. We'll be back next week with more of the latest gaming hardware news. We'll see you then.